Hello. Hello, Nakhli. Thank you for
Hi,
being here.
Khoury.
Hi. I'm very excited. As you know, this is our first episode of Awaken Leadership, and I'm thrilled to have you here today and also to bring insights and challenge our audience thinking on this fascinating topic of awakened leadership. Thank you for being here, Nakhli.
Thank you for having me, Carmen, and congratulations on launching this series of conversation. It's definitely interesting. I'm looking forward also to follow the future ones.
Thanks so much. I'm thrilled that you are the first one. We've been talking about this for a while, and I mentioned to you that yeah, I need to gather the courage, and not only that, that I need to find the right moment where it does feel in flow. That this topic of awakened leadership seems to have, let's say, feels like people are interested in this topic, and we were talking a bit before about our intention that we would like people to become curious and start to maybe just become more aware. What does it mean to be an awakened leader? We know you have worked and you're still working in the corporate world, and you are the former head of compliance and ethics at Bristol Myers Squibb in Switzerland. And you not only led with strategy and expertise, but also have been a champion for mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and ethical decision making. So it's my real pleasure to welcome you here today to share your wisdom with us. And how are you feeling today, Nakhli?
I'm feeling pretty well. I'm excited to the conversations. And first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I mean, it's really, I never think of myself as a leader or as a awakened leader, but I think it's also very important topic to discuss and put it out there. I've seen many people also in former colleagues, but also people that I've met along the way, starting questioning, starting to embark on their own journey to explore this area. So hopefully in our conversation today, we contribute a little bit and maybe make more people curious about it, or have some nice ideas for people to follow up on. So let's see how it goes.
Thank you. I'm sure people will be inspired, and if not, at least curious. What are they talking about? What do they mean by awakened leadership? In your words, how would you describe? Uh, there is no clear definition. We all make our own, but how would you describe in your own words what is to you an awakened leader?
Yeah. That's really a good question, and there are many definitions out there. Um, but for me, awakened leader, I think there is a hint in the name itself, being awakened. It it hints that there was a transformation or something that happened that made certain individuals to decide to go in a new path. In some cases, these are happy or positive experiences, but also could be negative experiences that make us rethink ourselves, our purpose, and a lot of the thoughts, emotions, actions that we were used to do. And for me, a waking leader is being in a continuous self-discovery journey, knowing that there is something else out there, but also taking the time and resources to educate ourselves, trying to find answers, trying to be aligned with our purpose. Um, and in most cases, most people that I've met, there's also very strong need that they also give back to their community, to their families, to their colleagues, and so on. So overall, I see it's a very positive process, very positive state of mind, I would say, to be in. And I think a lot of the people who feel themselves in this area, they also feel that it's some kind of a purpose that they have to fulfill. It's not something that you just come across and you click the box. It's in a way a life journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this so beautifully that it usually is something happens, something like a positive or a negative, whichever way we want to call it. Because in the
Mhm.
end, we see also that maybe in the moment we experience it, that's negative. But later on, when we look at it, we recognize maybe it was a divine intervention. Thank God it happened to me. Otherwise, who knows in which direction I would have gone. Would you mind sharing yours? What was your moment, your aha moment when you recognize I'm starting on this journey of self discovery and self knowing? I want to be more aware. And it's actually a life journey. It's not just a moment, click that box and say, oh, I've done my training, I've done what's required of me. When did you realize I'm on this journey for a longer time?
Yeah, I mean that's also a good point. Like for me, I've always felt that I had this side of me that are interested in philosophy and hidden knowledge. When I was young, I wanted to study actually a philosophy, and later on to be a movie director. And I was fascinated with telling stories and trying to find out answers. Um, but then, as many of us, life took us to studies, building a career, finding a job that pays the bills, and so on. Um, but later on in life, a couple of things happens. I think the first one was the passing of my father. I felt when it happened, I lost a big part of my protection in a way, and I felt being the eldest son that I was in a way, the second in line. So now it's in my own. Also, getting older in life, in the 40s, you start to think and evaluate your life and to see, okay, so am I here to do, or what is my impact? What's my journey? What does it mean? Um, and I think another trigger was during the COVID period that
Mhm.
we became isolated as humans, as family members, which sent me more like into internal search, internal journey, try to understand my position, my role, and so on.
So it seems like there were several moments in life where you started to question, to search for answers, to go deeper. And what
Yeah,
I'm also hearing is that you're taking more ownership. You started to take more and more ownership of your journey, and that's fascinating to see how also COVID contributed to that, and it helped you to become a stronger leader in a way. Because I know your background is in compliance and ethics
mhm,
and financial leadership, and these are fields that are usually we think of them as a little bit more rigid and rule based, right? So and you managed to bring a very human, conscious and transformational approach to your work. How did you manage to do that? How
yeah.
did you manage to bring that those aspects which are usually not so yeah, not the attributes that we would think of a leader in your field?
Yeah, I mean, normally when we say compliance and ethics, we say it together as a one sentence or as a one role. But for me, compliance and ethics are totally different areas. I always say that compliance is to follow the rules or the laws that were made by men or mankind, but ethics is to follow the laws that made for the humankind. So it's a different approach that I've seen. And my backstory also always being part of a minority growing up, even in my own village, even in my, I mean, almost every environment, I was always part of a minority. So I never had the chance to be fully integrated in any group. And being on the side all the time gave me a lot of time to, watch, observe, and trying to understand, especially if it was in a conflict area or between two bigger groups that were in conflict. So I was always trying to understand both sides, understand the decision-making process from both sides, the ethics in both sides. Are they at least have some similar values? Later on, I found these things very useful, being in a compliance and ethics roles, because it translated into the corporate world and taking business decision and so on. But I feel that my life experience prepared me in a better way for the business environment, because the life experience was much more aggressive in a way. It dealt with the human lives, it dealt with politics, it dealt with values of discrimination, and so on. So I had really good training growing up. I didn't see it as training; it was mostly suffering, and it's sometimes mixed with negative experiences. But later on, I valued these processes because I think it made me better who I am today because of it.
Thanks so much for sharing your story. And like you said, you've been through a lot from a very, very young age, and all those experiences shaped you. I really love what you said about the rules made by humans and made for humans. That was really brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. And I almost heard from you saying it's so much easier in the corporate world than in real life, from your experience. So, how did you feel that you reached your purpose? Because you said this kind of shaped you, gave you direction, and then you started to feel you have a purpose, and it was very much connected to
Mm.
ethics and compliance. How did you find your purpose in life?
Yeah, again, it's not an easy process, I guess, because I thought my purpose was to have a successful career, meaning, climbing the corporate ladder and trying to be the best at what I do, and get more and more responsibilities and so on. Um, and in a way, once you're in a corporate setting or any other environment, you feel that you are following a certain flow or a certain path that is, designed in a certain way. Um, But when I started to try to understand more what is my journey, I started to break it down to really what really makes me happy. What are the things that I enjoy doing? And then I noticed that what really makes me happy is, first of all, to fulfill my curiosity of learning new things. But then I found out that I was actually very passionate to share what I learned with people who need this information the most. And this is actually what I was doing as a compliance. I was sharing my knowledge, my information with the decision makers so they can take a decisions that they feel comfortable with. This is what I was also doing when I started to do some coaching for colleagues. I was sharing with them my insights, trying to help them find their own way. Um, so once I realized that what makes me happy or what fulfills me is doing these things, the setup didn't matter as such. So it doesn't. I don't call myself, compliance in the healthcare, because it's only the specific title in this task. But what I enjoy doing is just gaining information and sharing it with the people that will find it helpful for their own journey or their own process. And how did I reach out to that? I mean, again, I start to study, ancient philosophy. Um, One of the tools that I use is Japanese tool, the Ikigai, which is in a way a series of questions or tools that helps you narrow down things that you're good at, that you can have value for others, and so on. And a lot of discussions, a lot of questioning of my own fears, my own blockages, that every layer that I peeled just gave me more information about who I was or who I am, actually.
It's fascinating to hear you, how you went on this journey. Searching, reading, experimenting, but always being led by that inner joy, inner happiness, knowing that if you are doing what you're happy, then listening to the heart, what I call, if you listen to the heart, then you are on the right track. And you were saying that, okay,
Yeah.
the setting doesn't matter as much, but you are in an industry where you are doing your job so nicely, and maybe you found moments where it was difficult to follow values where maybe you felt challenged, even though we all know the theory and we try to apply it, but in an industry such as yours, maybe sometimes there's a choice to make between profits and values, or tough decisions. Have you ever been in a
Mm.
situation where you had to make a decision or give advice, because sometimes you have been giving advice for decisions like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, before I answer the question, I just want to comment on something you mentioned about being aligned and feeling happy about it. I think the opposite, like if we are not aligned with who we are and if we are not happy, uh, we will get signals about that. I mean, life will give us hints along the way that we are not in the right direction or that we are not living to fulfill our purpose. And to come back to awakening leaders, I think something else that they have in common, that they notice this and they start to listen to these hints and start to change because of it in order to find alignment. Um, and then to your question about conflicts or cases where I had to choose, I mean, in the corporate world, these are very common scenarios to happen. I would say if the dilemma is very clear, and then normally the business take the choice and choose the right way, it's not a big issue. But unfortunately, a lot of the dilemmas are in the gray
Yeah.
area, and the question of compliance and ethics, it's not really clear. It's not a black and white situation, but it's vague. There's a lot of things changing. Um, what for me always was my compass is to never compromise ethics, but in some cases I was compromising being compliant. So what does it mean? Um, being compliant, as I said, we follow the laws created by men or created by the company. Sometimes these laws are not good enough, or they didn't take into consideration the business reality that we are in. It's okay sometimes not to follow a certain law as long as we are still ethical in our direction. But the opposite, I wouldn't. I would never advise it. I would never say, okay, it's fine to be unethical, but guess what? We are still following the law. I mean, that for me was, in a way, the red line that we shouldn't cross. And I think every senior leadership, once they are see these things, they also, for them, becomes clear what should be the decision. And my role was to present to them, okay, these are the risk environment. This is the situation that we are facing. And I was fortunate enough to work with people that their ethical values were also high, and I don't recall a case that we choose unethical decisions, but we did challenge some compliance topics and thought, okay, it's not serving us anymore.
It's brilliant. I wish and I hope that we can re-listen to this recording and hear what you said about sometimes choose being ethical and challenge being compliant. Something like that. I recall where you said that was so brilliant, because
Yeah.
it's the laws that sometimes in the regulations that we made in the past that maybe they are not serving us anymore. And that brings a huge topic of what brought you here won't take you there, sometimes in many situations where we limit ourselves by the rules and regulations that we have put in place, and it's they are setting
Yeah.
boundaries for our growth. And what you said before also opens a big topic of discussion. um, how when we are not in alignment with ourselves, when we are not doing things from purpose, from the heart, and we are not finding our life's mission, there will be certain things that will show up. There will be first emotional, mental, and even physical topic aspects that will almost be our heart, our divine spirit telling us
Mm.
you are walking on the wrong path. There is something here that I'm trying to show you, and you are continuing to ignore, even though I brought this up for you several times already in different aspects, and I'm making it more
yeah,
difficult. And there comes a point where it really does show up in our body, and that's when we take it seriously usually. And I'm so happy you brought this topic, as a lot of the awakened leaders that I have conversations with, they've had these learnings, these personal learnings in their journey. Would you
yeah.
feel comfortable to share a little bit about your own journey?
Um, my own journey in this area. I, I've been 20 years almost working in the corporate, and there has been many cases that I felt I am hitting the same wall. I'm facing the same challenges. At the beginning, I was, sometimes changing companies or moving to different teams, but it always ended up in the same exact situations. But this doesn't have to happen in the corporate world. Sometimes even in a personal
Yeah.
level, right? We have the same type of friends or the same type of partners, and we always end up in the same situations. Um, it took me a while to understand that I cannot always change the environment, and maybe I should start changing myself. Um, and once I realized that, things in a way started to fall in place naturally. Because it's like playing a game. You need to get a certain lesson or a certain insights that makes you better. If you haven't learned this lesson yet, if you haven't accepted, or if you are not open to it, you will be stuck in the same level. You will not move past it. Um, in addition to that, in few years ago, I also felt or received a very clear sign that I wasn't aligned with my purpose. I received it in a very unpleasant way. But it was enough for me to start to listen and say, okay, I get it. I will pause. I'm open to change. I'm open to listen, and in a way surrender to it. And it's a very beautiful thing that once you put your guards down, and trust the process, that it will lead you to the place that you eventually want to. Um,
Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you so much. I recognize I put you a bit on the spot with something that, yeah, it's very personal, and thank you very much for sharing. Most A lot of us, we go through these challenges. I think the beauty is when we start to recognize the signs, and like you said, surrender to it, recognize they're coming for us to help us see better, listen better, be a better person. And in that moment of surrendering, the transformation already begins, with that being guided towards something else, not being led by ego that we know everything and we are the best and the greatest, but suddenly recognize maybe there is something else uh, bigger than us. Maybe there is even an intelligence higher than ours, and we can connect and learn from it, and be open to receive this guidance. So yeah, it's beautiful, and thank you very much for
yeah.
sharing.
I think it's a humbling experiences, and what I noticed that it makes you more kind. And some people, or many cases, people that we refer to as awakening leaders, sometimes they are perceived as weak because of they are kind, but they are actually much more stronger, because they feel so much comfortable in their skin and who they are. They have a high level of self-awareness, and they choose to be kind. It's not because
Yeah.
sign of weakness. Uh,
And you brought this now to, and I wasn't gonna share, but I was thinking about it. This is actually one of the reasons why I decided to start a series of conversations, not only because on one side we may misinterpret kindness for weakness, but also because these amazing awakened leaders are not the ones who will be tooting their own horn and hitting their own drum to tell the world how awakened they are. They are usually people
Mhm.
who observe from the side, who give guidance, who lead from behind. They are leaders who don't have to be loud. Their presence in the room is enough to shift the energy of a whole group of people. And that is power. What I consider a real powerful energy to be able to shift things without having to be forceful. And I do really believe that this is the way for the future, for the leaders of the future to be inspiring and to bring to life a different kind of energy and a different kind of power, leading with purpose, leading with emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and leading from the heart.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about energy, you reminded me also with the discussion that now we hear globally about what type of energy we need in the corporate setting, right? More masculine or less feminine, and so on. And I was thinking about this when I read, and it became really interesting for me because the certain leader mentioned that we need more masculine energy. He didn't say we need less women or more men. He referred to it as energy. And if you Google what is masculine energy or feminine energy, you will get actually a very detailed list of what each type of energy represents. And it got me thinking that, for example, masculine energy, which is more based on precisions, on analytics, on data, and authority, on clear structure, which is very important qualities and aspects to have in the business, right? Especially during certain areas. Um, the other side, the feminine energy, is more based on compassion, understanding, nurturing, emotions, um, leading by or relying more on your instinct or gut feeling. So I wonder what is the right way. I mean, is it either of those two, or is it should be a combination of those two? And I don't have a clear answer to that. But also, what also start to fascinate me is a lot of the discussion about women leadership, how much we advocate and want to see women in leadership positions. Do we want them to be in their positions because of the feminine energy that they bring, or because they are open to take in the masculine energy and qualities in that role? And I found this also very interesting. I mean, I always felt that the importance of having women in leadership positions because of their feminine energy, because it might be less existent. But if they feel the need to also change the way they lead in order to progress, I wasn't sure if this is a good price to
And
pay.
and this is a wonderful question to put to our audience, and maybe they will write in the chat to see what do they believe. Is it more important? Is it a balance, or is it also being able to express one's own energy in a natural, authentic way? Because this is what I'm hearing from you. You saying sometimes maybe we flex our energy to fit in the place rather than being fully and completely authentic. I feel this could be another topic for an amazing conversation
Yeah,
between us, but we are sadly already approaching the end of our conversation. Um, Maybe in closing, if you think of something like I don't know, an advice that you would give to somebody who is embracing right now this journey of awakened leadership, but don't know exactly where to start. What would be a piece of advice from you that you would give to a young leader or a senior leader who is starting on this journey of awakened leadership?
Yeah, maybe a couple of things. I mean, I really like one of the quotes from El-Rumi, one of my favorite teachers and philosophers. He said, "Yesterday I was clever and I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise and I decided to change myself." So start um, asking yourself what makes you happy. What are the things that you feel um, aligned with who you are? And don't be harsh on yourself. Don't look at this as a task to be completed. It's a journey, and probably it will never end in this lifetime. So take it as a journey. Once you're on the right path or in the path of self discovery, it will lead you to the right place. Just trust it, surrender to it, and don't think about too much what needs to be done, but just keeps your eye on the right
Thank you
direction.
so much. Thank you so much, Nakli. And uh, I look forward to continuing our conversation maybe in a future live. And I will say goodbye for now and goodbye to everyone who was able to join us today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Carmen. It was a pleasure. It went by very fast, and yeah, let's see how it goes.
Thank you.